In the countryside of Brazil, where farms stretch for miles and the silence of the night is usually broken only by the sound of insects and wind moving through the trees, a terrifying story turned peaceful towns into places of fear. For nearly 3 weeks, residents of small rural communities locked themselves inside their homes, while helicopters flew overhead and hundreds of police officers searched through dense forests. The reason for all that chaos was a single man, a heavily armed fugitive accused of brutal crimes, a man who seemed to vanish every time authorities got close. His name was Lázaro Barbosa de Sousa, and the manhunt that began after a horrifying massacre quickly became one of the largest police operations in recent Brazilian history. But to truly understand how everything escalated to that point, it is necessary to go back many years before his name became known across the entire country. Lázaro Barbosa de Sousa was born in 1988 in the state of Bahia, a region of Brazil where poverty and limited opportunities are common realities for many families. Reports from people who knew him during his childhood describe a young man who already showed signs of aggression and difficulty following rules. Neighbors claimed he was often involved in fights and small acts of violence during his teenage years. As time passed, those early behaviors slowly evolved into more serious criminal activity. Authorities began investigating him for robberies and home invasions in rural areas. Even at that stage, a clear pattern was starting to appear. He often operated alone, carried weapons, and targeted isolated properties where police response would take longer. These early habits would later become one of the main reasons he managed to evade authorities for so long. As the years went by, the accusations against him grew increasingly serious. Investigators linked him to violent robberies and even sexual assault cases. In one of those investigations, he was eventually arrested. However, that arrest did not last long. At some point after being detained, he managed to escape from prison, something that would mark the beginning of a long period of life on the run. Instead of hiding in large cities where surveillance was higher, he preferred remote rural areas, forests, and abandoned properties. This lifestyle allowed him to learn the terrain extremely well. He became familiar with hidden trails, caves, and natural shelters deep inside the forest. That knowledge would later become one of his greatest advantages during the massive police pursuit that captured the attention of the entire country. Another detail that caught the attention of investigators was his ability to survive for long periods while hiding. Many residents in rural communities later reported that he would invade homes during the night to steal food, clothing, and sometimes ammunition. In several cases, families woke up to find an armed man inside their homes while they were sleeping. Witnesses said he appeared calm and calculated during these invasions, speaking little but making it very clear that he was willing to use violence if anyone resisted. After taking what he needed, he would disappear again into the darkness of the forest, leaving frightened families behind and almost no trace of where he had gone. For years, his name appeared in police reports across multiple Brazilian states, including Bahia and Goiás, as well as regions surrounding the Brazilian capital. Despite this, authorities repeatedly failed to capture him. One major reason was the geography of those regions. Large rural territories filled with farms, hills, rivers, and dense vegetation created perfect hiding places for someone familiar with the land. He avoided main roads and preferred moving through forests and farmland where surveillance was limited. Over time, his reputation as a dangerous and unpredictable criminal began to spread among residents of those areas. Everything changed in June of 2021. In a rural property near the city of Ceilândia, close to Brazil's capital Brasilia, a brutal crime shocked the entire nation. 4 members of the same family were found dead inside a farmhouse. Investigators quickly identified a suspect. Lázaro Barbosa de Sousa. By the time authorities began searching for him, he had already fled into nearby forests. What started as a search for a homicide suspect rapidly transformed into a massive manhunt that would last almost 3 weeks. Police forces from multiple regions joined the operation as the scale of the situation became clear. In the days that followed, new reports began to emerge from terrified residents. People claimed they had seen an armed man moving through plantations, crossing dirt roads at night, and invading isolated farms. In some cases, he forced families to stay inside their homes while he searched for food and supplies. Every time police received a report, officers rushed to the area, but by the time they arrived, he had already vanished again. The terrain made the search incredibly difficult. Dense forests, hills, and hidden paths provided endless opportunities for him to escape detection. As the manhunt intensified, fear spread across nearby communities. Schools temporarily suspended classes, families avoided leaving their homes after dark, and many rural properties organized night watches to protect themselves. At the same time, the police operation continued to grow. More than 200 officers were eventually deployed, supported by helicopters, drones, and trained tracking dogs. Despite all that technology and manpower, the fugitive continued to slip away. Each failed attempt to capture him increased the sense of tension across the entire region. During the investigation, some unusual reports about his behavior also began circulating. Certain witnesses claimed that he carried religious objects and believed he had some kind of spiritual protection. Others said he performed rituals or followed mystical beliefs while hiding in the forest. Although many of those stories were never fully confirmed, they contributed to the mysterious image forming around him. To many people following the story through the media, it seemed as if he always managed to escape just moments before the police arrived. As the days passed, authorities slowly began tightening the search area. Roadblocks were established along key routes, and police teams started systematically searching farms and forest sections. The strategy was simple but time-consuming. Reduce the territory where the fugitive could move until there were no escape routes left. Finally, after nearly 20 days of relentless pursuit, a new tip led officers to a rural area near the city of Aguas Lindas de Goiás. Reports indicated that he had recently been seen entering a property nearby. Shortly afterward, police teams located the suspect. A confrontation followed, bringing an end to a manhunt that had mobilized hundreds of officers and kept an entire region living in fear. The search for Lázaro Barbosa de Sousa was finally over. For almost 3 weeks, he had managed to evade a massive police operation, moving through forests and rural landscapes, while the entire country watched the story unfold in real time. To this day, the case remains one of the most intense police pursuits ever recorded in Brazil, a chilling example of how a single fugitive was able to paralyze communities and challenge authorities for nearly 20 days.